financing greens in the country. Let me start by asking you if you can see my slides yet. Yes, thank you. So I'll start with the green finance in Vietnam as the state of the overall market and as well as the current trends. What we have here is that during this, after the COVID combat, that we saw the fund mobilizations through the capital markets, and banks in Vietnam has gone through the challenge as a matter of several consequences. And of course, the initiative and effort for the green financing in Vietnam also suffer. But as you can see in the figure 1, the 2022 in Vietnam, we saw the sluggish and the slowdown of the fund mobilizations. But compared to with the same figure of the ASEAN green issuance, we can see there's a resilience of Vietnam having issued the green instruments since 2019 and going forward until 2022. But in comparison with ASEAN, ASEAN 6 to be exact, Vietnam seems to be very modest and humble within this initiative, within the effort to issue green bonds and green loans. As a matter of fact, that the market is still new in an early stage, and also there are many things to do with the regulations and framework in order for the business to start and take off with this with their business to first to understand how they can mobilize green instruments to use the green finance, and of course to how to report and make sure that they would comply with all the regulations, and as well as the voluntarily activity to ensure that they are not greenwashing. Of course, significant parts of the green finance is related to the power development, as Louisa mentioned with her speech. In Vietnam, we have just recently had a new Power Development Plan 8 that is aligning with the COP26 commitment. But according to our calculations, that Vietnam also needs a significant demand for investment in the power development to ensure that the balance between the economic development and how to develop sustainably. So the current total outstanding for renewable energies is approximately around 9 billion USD, and through our projections, we believe that by only relying on the banking credit alone, that will be not enough for for Vietnam to develop the energy project that will be aligned with the COP26, especially during this the slow issuance and challenge of the corporate bond markets for the time being. As far as we also understand the issues of the establish and operate the energy project that can last up to 10 years, which would need to correspond with their payback periods. And of course, that cannot come with the banks that mobilized capital comes from the short-term sources. So, and there are also the problem of the cost of renewable energies projects that can be high, and there's a risk that project developers may not be able to secure financing on their favorable terms. So we conclude that to address these financing gaps, Vietnam needs to depend heavily on the foreign direct investment, also FAI, and especially another matter of the corporate bond market, that would be the green bonds and probably green green loans. We also have some highlights with the Vietnam market that Vietnam in 2022 got the first green bond issuance in Vietnam by EVN Finance. That could be a first, but also ambitious and getting many potential opportunity for other issuers to start commit to this green finance route. This green bond issuance is the first one to be issued domestically and receive many attentions from investors, and also receive a partial credit guarantee that help them secure long-term finance for green costs. And the government also provides many support for the trends of the domestic green finance markets. As mentioned before, there was the launch of the JETP. In 2022, in February, there's also an approval of the 2022-2025 program to support private firms in sustainable business development. And most recently, there was the Circular 17 of the SBV, the State Bank Vietnam, provide guidelines on environmental risk management in credit extensions by credit institutions and foreign bank branches. But there's also several problems that we found that we need to overcome in order to get the Vietnam green finance market to take off. Some of that may be due to the problem of greenwashing, but before that, there's also the technical issue of know-how that many bankers and also issuers, market participants do not understand in a comprehensive way on how to issue green bonds and how to make it trustworthy for foreign investor and of course domestic investor to believe that the bond would be deemed as green. That also apply with the green loans as well. And that is what we are working on, and hopefully to contribute to the green finance market in Vietnam by going through these climate bonds initiatives. FinVetting is the climate bond initiative authorized company in Vietnam to verify the green bond scheme that is the certifications was widely used in 30 countries. And by doing this, we can ensure that the assets and the projects can be used, would be used and would be supervised annually by us and other observants to ensure that the projects would be on the right track. And by using this one, the issuers in Vietnam can attract the foreign investors, and many of them who are very familiar and got used to working domestically, that they can finally tap on the international markets with the huge demand of green financing and investing sustainably. And we hope that with our efforts, they can receive the enhanced reputations and find themselves be financed enough in order to support the overall economy. And we also have this taxonomy that the climate bonds initiatives used in order for assets, debt and entities to use to scan and filter if they are eligible to be identified as a climate bonds. One thing that I understand that Vietnam is also developing its Vietnam taxonomy, and that will be released soon. And I hope that this taxonomy is also complement to Vietnam taxonomy that can help the not only the private sector but the public sector to mobilize the fund for to combat climate change. But getting through all this, we also found that there are several challenges in Vietnam green finance markets. The first one is, like I said, because of the know-how that we in real need of the technical assistance from the international organizations to train not only the issuers but also the investors, the banks in Vietnam, to understand how to operate this market, how to provide the trustworthy green products and instruments for the investment community. And that also leads to another problem of the lack of human resource of the labor folks who understand the market and the environmental aspect to provide skills and expertise for the green finance market. What we have there is that, for example, 10 years ago, there was the hot positions in the labor market in Vietnam called the business analyst. And now it's time to call for the training and development of the programs to train ESG analysts in order to help the market and the market participants. And what last but not least is that with the green and if we expand a bit more to the environmental and social E&S investing, normally in the current state of Vietnam's market, only a small part of the listed firms with reputations and resource can be is able to go with the to comply and spend the resource to invest in ESG and reporting to market themselves to attract the funds. But there are also small and medium enterprise that can also join the initiative to help Vietnam with the green transitions. They are a significant part of the Vietnam's business environment, taking up to 60% of the business community. But due to the scarce of their resource and also the current market trends, they lack of investment tool or a way to help them market themselves to the investment community. And that is why we come up with another initiatives that I would like to brief you just briefly. That is called the ESG scoring. So this is what I mentioned before, that with the unlisted and SME, that they may have the potential, but they may spend no effort. They may not have enough effort to market themselves and help them to access the finance, and therefore they are a financing gap for the SME. And we also took some survey for the ESG data, and we found that if we can find the public's available information along with the survey and survey methodology to collect the information for all the available information's disclosures of the SME, we can help the business community by using the ESG score. And of course, with the voluntarily and help from the business to submit information voluntarily, but also sincerely. We can get a tool called the ESG score that acts as a filter, just a preliminary tools for the investor to filter and find the investment that fits their focus or their interest. And with that, the details or the latter of the due diligence for investment would move on quicker and easier. And eventually, at the end of the day, that could help the Vietnam green finance and of course the ESG's investment sustainable investment to move quicker and eventually help the Vietnam's green finance markets. That is the benefits, but also there are several benefits for other stakeholders. For example, with regulators, with sponsors or donors, with the market participants, the investor, as I mentioned, and related parties such as training institutes. We hope that if we can address these not only technical but also financing issues, I hope that the green finance market in Vietnam would be able to take off in the next coming years. Yeah, and hopefully it would help Vietnam to achieve this sustainable development. Thank you very much.